On mute. Hi everyone, my name's Krista. I am one of the senior project managers at Accelerant Research, and I am very excited to be presenting our next speaker, who is Margarita Grisales, and I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see your background, Margarita. Sorry about that. So I hope everyone's been enjoying the presentations today. Margarita is the Director of Measurement, Analytics, and Insights at Golf Channel. I know she's going to have a great topic for us to listen in on today, and then some Q&A will follow after that. Before Margarita gets started, please just keep those ground rules in mind. Again, we're at the mercy of technology. You just saw me talking while on mute, so things do happen. Please just be patient with us. If glitches occur, or if we have surprise visitors like a family pet pops in and the dog wants to bark to say hi to everyone, that's okay. Just hang in there. We'll all get through it. Please be respectful and courteous of one another, of our presenters. If there's a topic that really hits home, make sure to tell us. Tell the presenters, engage with them, let them know that what they said spoke to you. If you have any research on your end that is relevant, also share that with them and give the kudos when you can so that they know that what they said earlier today was really meaningful and made an impact. And then finally, take advantage of this opportunity to network, engage, and interact with one another. Of course, you can always reach out to us at Accelerant if you have questions. You can type a note in the chat function here if you have a question, if there's a comment that you want to make. Let's just find a way to stay connected, even though some distance is currently in place for the majority of us at this time. So now I will turn the stage over to Margarita. I'm going to make her the presenter. And Margarita, thank you so much for your time, and we're really excited about your presentation.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Krista. So I am really excited to be here today. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So give me 1 second. Okay. Can you guys see it? All right, great. So first, I want to start by saying that I actually started a new job 3 days ago. So I now work for Market Traders Institute. I am the Senior Director of Marketing. So after 8.5 years at Golf Channel, it was time to move on to a new industry. So I'm really excited to be joining the financial industry. Market Traders focuses on investment education and trading technology. So now on to SEO on a budget. So of course now with everything that is going on, more now than ever, companies need to be frugal. And thankfully, SEO is one of those things that can be done with a very small budget. So I wanted to share a few tips with all of you. So SEO, it's really, the way I like to explain it is to break it up in 2 areas, right? There's content SEO and there's technical SEO. They're both equally important, and one cannot really exist without the other. So that's why we're going to touch base on each one of those. And of course, keyword research right in the middle, because as we all know, as researchers, it's very important to know what our audience is trying to look for. So first, to start with content SEO, HTML titles and descriptions. So when you think about a website, you should think about it as a book, right? When you think of a title of a book, you really want it to be self-explanatory. And it's the same thing with HTML titles. They should be straight and to the point, so that if anyone has questions, they can be answered right away. The description also aids into further explaining what this title or book is about, in this case, a website. So there are certain character limits that are recommended so that it doesn't interfere with the displaying of this in the search engine results pages. So right here, these are just examples of what a title and a meta description look like in the HTML code. Just so you guys know, descriptions aren't really taken as part of the Google algorithm. They were at some point, but because people started abusing and spamming the meta description field, they are no longer taken as part of the algorithm. However, they are very important because when you look at the search engine results pages, they become part of an ad for your page. So think about the descriptions as a way to promote your page, as a way to further entice the user to click on that ad for your page. It's important to keep in mind the character limitations, because if you don't, the display is going to get truncated. So the goal of this is obviously to make it as self-explanatory as possible so that people can actually click on that and go to your page. So it's also important to note that titles and descriptions should be unique to each page. Google does not like any kind of duplicate content. And that goes for the actual content itself. It goes for the titles. It goes for the descriptions. They want to give their users the best experience. And so they look for them to have a variety of pages to choose from. If you have 2 pages with the same title and description, then what's the point of Google ranking them both? They're going to pick for you. They're going to rank the one that they think is best. So that's why it's better to take control of that page and write them appropriately so that they can represent the content of each page. Another important point to make when you think about titles and descriptions is that if they don't describe the page exactly, what can happen is someone's going to click on that page, they're going to go to the site, they're going to see that the page is not what they thought it was, and they're going to bounce back to the search engine results page. What happens here is that negatively affects the way Google sees your site. If you have a high bounce rate, Google is going to take this as a signal that your page is not good and users don't like it. So going back to giving them the best user experience, you have to also think of bounce rate and write your titles and descriptions appropriately to represent your page. So now going into content and header tags. I'm sure that you all have heard content is king, and it's true, right? That's what we write for. We write for our users. We want them to come to our sites, consume the content, tell their friends, and grow our audience that way. We want to sell our products, et cetera, et cetera. So the goal here is to make the content relevant to the user. So it's again important for it to be unique. You don't want to duplicate content throughout the site. It doesn't help you in any way. It actually hurts you. So it's also important to remember that good content must supply demand. You should always be researching what people want to read about so that you can meet that demand, supply and demand, right? It should be linkable. You want to create content that attracts inbound links naturally. And it should obviously be unique, relevant. It should be written with the user in mind. A lot of, like black hat SEOs tend to spam the content, but Google has gotten smarter throughout the years at identifying that. They really want to crack down on spam. They want to give users the best content possible. So that is why you should always write with the user in mind. Yes, of course, you should optimize, but you should do it in a smart way where it makes sense. So header tags, they are very important because they're also a signal to complete that theme of the page, the website. So when you think about header tags, if you start at the top with an H1, you should only have one H1, which is the title of the page, on page. And then you can have as many H2s, H3s as needed. The point of the H1 tag in this case is to signal to the search engines what, again, like what the topic of this page is about. So again, one should only have one H1 tag per page. You can have as many H2s, H3s as you want. Then here on this screenshot that I have, you see that I'm pointing to the breadcrumbs. So the breadcrumbs are important because they help search engines understand the structure of your site. Right here we see they have the home, best products, and desktop PCs. So it's important to have breadcrumbs implemented on your site because it helps Google understand the structure of a site. So another important piece of content SEO is alternate text. Of course, we know that images are so important to websites. They complete the look. They make them, look lively. They also help get traffic from Google image search. But in order for images to be really helpful from an SEO standpoint, they need to be to have alternate text. We need to tell search engines what these images are about in order to complete that theme. So when you look, I have a really cute example here of two puppies dancing. And so the alt tag here is puppies dancing. It's very literal. SEO has that, I want to call it not that power, but it's so interesting because it just is straight to the point. You're literally, you don't have to get too creative. You just have to be straight to the point. Those are two puppies dancing or jumping. But the goal of the images is to actually give more context to the content on a page or in a website. Additionally, they could be an avenue to drive additional traffic to your site. So it's important to optimize them accordingly. So now, keyword research. So keyword research is an integral part of content SEO. It is so important to know exactly what you're trying to achieve, right? Like you're setting a goal. You want to get traffic for topics that your target audience are searching. It's important to remember that people search in their own way. You may think, oh, they may be searching for, let's say that you're a clothing company. Oh, they're searching for clothing. They're searching for apparel. Well, more than likely, they're not searching for apparel or clothing. They're probably searching for pants, shirts, t-shirts, jeans. They're very literal. So that's why keyword research is so important. One of the tools that I really recommend using, not only because it's free and we all love free, but also because it's really useful and it's from Google. So that is Google Trends. So the reason why I love Google Trends is because it allows you to set up the reports in several different ways. You can slice and dice the data any way you want and make it really helpful for your own use case. So you can see trends here by the last hour, last 4 hours, last day, last 7 days, last 12 months, you name it, they have it. So this is really cool when you are trying to put out content for something that is happening live. So a great example for me is when I worked at Golf Channel, we used to have coverage of a lot of live tournaments. So it was actually quite fascinating to watch how people search for things as they were happening in the telecast. So an example that I remember is during the Masters a couple of years ago, people were searching for aim and corner. And sure enough, they mentioned aim and corner on the telecast, and sure enough, people started searching for it. And it's, like you see the trends go up and down. So those are opportunities that content creators can take advantage of to serve that demand. So right here, I just have an example of a few things that have been trending during this quarantine. So Disney Plus, of course, we all know that streaming services are booming these days because we're all, in the house without any place to go. Tiger King, you guys can see right here when it peaked. And Michael Jordan with The Last Dance documentary series. So again, I highly recommend using this. It's also really, really helpful here because you can see It tells you the rising terms. So you can actually target those. It gives you, if you are targeting a specific region within the United States, or if you are abroad, you can also see how those searches spike based on location. So you can actually change the location up here in the filters. You can also look at a specific industry. They have a drop down here for all categories. So you can actually see trends for that specific category. And then lastly, on this one, you can then select whether you want to see search trends for web search, news, or YouTube. So very useful tool. This other tool I really like because it takes keyword searches from different places on the internet. I want to say that you pronounce this Subli, but I'm sorry if that's not how you pronounce it. And the cool thing about this is that you can literally drag and drop whatever keyword you want into this little box right here. And you can create a collection. After you do that, you can download it in a CSV file and then, start creating content from there. Another one that I really recommend is the performance report within Google Search Console. This one is really important because this one is specifically looking to your site. So you can actually see here what keywords you're ranking for, what keywords you're getting traffic from. You can see the actual ranking, where you rank, click-through rate, of course. So you can actually optimize. You can get optimizing ideas from here. Let's say that you're ranking for several keywords, but you're not getting any clicks for them. Those are opportunities because you can further optimize those pages and see if you can start getting traffic from them. So this one is one that I highly recommend. You can, again, filter here by web, image, and video. So you can see how you're doing in each one of those specific types. You can also see your top pages, which is extremely important, again, because you're not only looking at keywords or queries, you're looking at pages. So you're actually getting an idea of what pages are the most important in your website. And then you can further dig into that page and see what set of keywords are driving the traffic to that page. And another thing that is cool about this is that you can literally expand the time frame. Previously, it would only be a time frame of 90 days. Google has changed this, and now you can go back up to 18 months, I want to say. So now, technical SEO. So continuing with Google Search Console, every webmaster should have a Google Search Console account. It's free. It's a great way to see how Google views your site. And it gives you that peek behind the curtain and the opportunity to optimize from of course, content, as we saw earlier, and a technical standpoint. So there are three main areas in Google Search Console. There's performance, index, and enhancements. They also have a very handy URL inspector where you can actually see, whether your page has been indexed or not. They also have a place where you can request a removal of a page. Let's say that you have a URL that was published by mistake and you need to unpublish this URL. You can do so from Google Search Console. The one thing that I want to note on that is that if you do request removal of a page, this is not a permanent removal unless you properly unless you properly 404 that page. Otherwise, 6 months down the road, it will reappear. Okay, they also have other sections like security and manual actions. So if, let's say, because you didn't know, you started buying links and Google says, ooh, that website is a little spam, and they decide to take a manual action against that site, this is where you can actually see the status of that. And lastly, you can take a look at your linking profile. So now, going further into Google Search Console. So the index, under index, the coverage report, this really tells you the health of your URLs. So in here you can see how many URLs have errors, how many URLs have been indexed, and how many have been excluded. So when you click on the details, you can see what those errors are. And then if you click here, it will actually give you a list of all of those URLs that have problems. So after you have this report, and this can also be exported into CSV file, which is amazing, but you can start prioritizing. The way I like to fix these type of errors is by looking to see if they are driving traffic to the site, because that's the most important thing, right? We want to drive traffic to our websites. So we start by prioritizing the ones that, let's say, are broken, but have driven a lot of traffic to the site. So we want to fix that. The second thing that I would recommend looking at is the inbound links. How many inbound links are those URLs? How many do they have? And we don't want to lose on inbound links. Absolutely not, right? We want to make sure we redirect that. If that page doesn't exist, make sure they do a proper 3-1 redirect to a similar page or the replacement page. Sitemaps. Sitemaps are extremely important. Sitemaps are basically you're presenting Google the list of the pages within your site, so you don't have to wait for the crawler to come and look at them. The thing about waiting for the crawler is that all of those crawlers have limited amount of time. So when they come and crawl a site, they're not going to get to crawl the entire website. So by submitting the XML sitemaps, you are saving not only the crawler that time, but you are, saving yourself the wait and potentially getting all of your pages indexed faster. So right here in my example, this is a look at what the sitemap section looks in Google Webmaster Tools. You can see that you can actually submit them directly through here. You can also see the status of the ones that you have submitted. And, it will tell you they have been unsuccessful. So there are several types of sitemap extensions. You can have a sitemap for news, for video, for images. And what is very important to note about these is that this right here is an example of just a general XML sitemap, which is just a list of URLs with the location and here when it was last modified. Right here, which is a little hard to read, I apologize for that, but this is actually a snippet of an entry for a video item of an XML sitemap. So when we talk about video specifically, the idea of the XML sitemap is to add all of the other elements that are going to help the search engines understand that piece of content. So things like the location of the file, the URL, of course, the thumbnail location, the length of the video, when it was published, if it's family friendly or not. There are also other fields that are optional, and I highly recommend that you research that. Google has an extensive library of documentation on how to build each one of these. This is images, same thing. Like I said earlier, images are an additional avenue to drive traffic to your site. So having an image XML sitemap, it's highly recommended too. One more thing, sorry, before we move on with XML sitemaps, is that there are guidelines to be followed. They have to meet a certain size criteria. You don't want to have pages that redirect in there because you only want to have final destinations. If you think about a page A, 301 redirecting to page B, what is the point of having page A, B, and the XML sitemap? No point at all. So those are little things that I highly recommend you pay attention to when you start creating XML sitemaps. So going back to the URL inspection tool. So like I was saying earlier, you can actually see whether a URL has been indexed or is in the index or not. So you can check that quickly here. If it is not, you have the opportunity to request indexing by clicking in this little guy. If it is in the index, you actually get to see additional information. So it's extremely helpful. Some of that information is actually the enhancements that I'm going to touch on in a little bit. So you can actually see here if that page is mobile friendly. if it has been amped, which I will touch on in a little bit, and whether it has a video or not. And if your page has been updated, you can actually request Google to recrawl it and, you know, take notice of the updates by clicking here again. So now onto the enhancement section. So speed. I'm sure that you guys have heard about speed, I hope, and SEO. So speed is so important nowadays, especially when you think about how we have all moved to this little dandy mobile devices. We are very impatient and we want pages to load instantaneously. So by actually accessing this report and looking to see which pages are slow, which ones are moderate and fast, you can then start prioritizing on how you're going to fix that. I want to venture and guess that a lot of the things that occur in some pages are probably problems that persist across the site. So usually it has to deal with the size of the images and unnecessary code that doesn't need to be on the page. So it's important to note that. Also, if the load time increases from 1 second to 3 seconds, the bounce rate could increase by 32%. And the higher you go, the higher your bounce rate, because we don't want to wait. That's the truth. We are all so impatient and we want things to happen right away, especially when it comes to a page that you're trying to read on your phone. It's also because of that bounce rate, Google tends to demote pages in the SERPs if they take too long to load because it's not a good user experience. Two other things in enhancements is the mobile usability. So in this report, Google actually tells you the errors that they're finding when it comes to mobile usability. So a few examples that we see here is the text is too small, so obviously people can't read it, or the clickable elements are too close together. It's really hard to click, right? So if you click on those, it'll actually tell you the URLs that have those errors. Again, prioritize. For AMP, in case you guys don't know what AMP stands for, it means Accelerated Mobile Pages. And it's something that came about, I want to say 2015. It was an initiative to make pages that would load almost instantaneously. Again, trying to, combat that speed issue that, it's really across most websites. So AMP is just a, I don't want to say less heavy, but like a little lighter code for web pages. And so the goal of AMP is to make them so fast that you can even blink before the page loads. So again, there's a whole protocol in AMP, so you guys can read about that and learn more about it if you don't have AMP pages already. So here, in the Google Search Console, you can also see if you have AMP errors. With AMP, the thing with AMP is that they have to be error-free in order for them to display in search. If you have an error, that page won't display. Just to give you an example here for this page that I was looking at, the tag iframe needs to be replaced by the equivalent of the AMP iframe. So it's just little things like that. Now, moving on into schema markup. So schema markup, it was an initiative that started amongst Google, Yahoo, and Yandex. The purpose of this was really to find a way to make it standard for webmasters to organize the data from a web page so that it could be easily consumed by the search engines and at the same time help the display of the results. So there are several types of schemas. You all have seen them in Google search results pages, reviews, videos, articles, events, products, and more. There are, like several types of schemas, and because this is an open project, developers can actually, make enhancements to this as they go. So what is cool about this is that Google has come up with tools to help webmasters create the schema. So they have this, this cool little tool called the Structured Data Markup Helper. So you can actually just follow the prompts and help you, like understand what kind of code you need. They also have a really useful tool to test your schema markup. You can either paste the URL here and it will tell you what kind of markup it has been detected, or you can actually paste the code into the box and it will tell you whether or not it's valid or invalid. The thing with schema is that it's not every site have it, so it could become a competitive advantage in SEO because you're making it easier for Google, for Yahoo, and other search engines to return your results. This is also how they produce those rich snippets. You guys have seen reviews on a website, and they have the little stars and the reviews. If you're a local business, it's important to have schema for the local business because this is where you can display your address, your hours of operation, etc. Same thing if you are, let's say, a TV network like Golf Channel. If you have a show, if you have a series, this is where you can use schema to notate your the actors within the series, producers, actual episodes, and so forth. And so the schema markup is also what fuels the answers box, which I'm sure you have seen it. So it's really important from an SEO standpoint to look into this. So I highly recommend it if you're not using it already. So now onto some free tools. So one of the tools that I like to use that is completely free is SEO Quake. This is a free browser extension. And the cool thing about this is that you can literally get like right away a complete SEO audit of a web page. You can review all major KPIs, like you see right here. It gives you a summary of the title, the description, et cetera, et cetera. They also have a thorough analysis of SERPs that you can export to CSV. And they have a cool tool where you can actually see how difficult it would be to rank for a keyword. Another one that I really like to use, and I have been using them for years, is Moz. And so Moz also has a set of free tools. They also have a paid version, which you get in addition to getting more queries on the free versions of those tools. You also get another set of tools. So check them out. They're not that pricey, so you wouldn't be breaking the bank if you think that it makes sense for your business. But just 3 things here that I really like about them is the Keyword Explorer, so you can discover and prioritize top ranking keywords, and you can do a comparison against your top competitor sites. You can also look into Link Explorer. So this one gives you a list of all the inbound links that you have to a page. It gives you a spam score, which is important because you may have a site linking to you, but that site may have a high spam score, which is not good. It's a bad signal for Google. You want to have people, or not people, but sites linking to you that are relevant and of high quality. So it's almost like quality over quantity when it comes to inbound links. Then Mozbar is also another tool, and it's similar to SEO Quake in the fact that you can just download it to your browser and it can give you instant insights on a page. This is a little example of what you can get. You can also see page and domain authority, and those are actually proprietary signals to Moz. And the goal of those is to just basically tell you the probability of a page to rank high for a keyword. And last but not least, Moz offers excellent learning resources. So if you want to learn more about SEO, you should definitely check them out. And actually, they have a great collection and tips and tools for local businesses. If you are a WordPress user, you should definitely look into Yoast SEO. They have a free and a premium version. The free version, it's basic, but it's definitely helpful. The premium version, I would say it's amazing. They have basically everything that I touched on the presentation, they have it included. So it's, you know, it's amazing to have it. We have WordPress, they have keyword optimization, they have a schema.org data. So they help you set up the schema for those pages, canonical URLs. And if I haven't touched on canonical URLs, but these are very important to set up your canonical links within your site. What a canonical URL is, it's basically telling the search engines which one is the original version of a page. I'm sure you'll know that when you build campaigns, marketing campaigns, you want to track your efforts. So you create UTM tracking codes. And so you append them to each URL. No big deal, right? Well, not so fast. When it comes to SEO, what you're doing is you're creating duplicate versions of that page, which means you're creating duplicate content. So by having canonical URLs, by having canonical links on each page, you're preventing those additional UTMs from becoming a problem when it comes to SEO. It's also important to note that if you're sharing content with another site, which is very common, right? Like you do a blog post here, blog post there, you share content here, content there, but you should have cross-domain canonicals when it comes to that, so that the original content creator gets credit for that content. Because if you have duplicate content, it doesn't really service anyone. Like Google is going to pick, if you don't tell Google which one is the canonical version of that piece of content, they're going to decide on their own and rank it accordingly. So it's better if you tell them by applying the correct cross-domain canonical tags. So going back to Yoast SEO. So another thing that they do here, which is helpful, is they give you internal linking suggestions. This is important because let's say that you have a page that you really want to rank for. When you think about what links do, which is like their votes of popularity, if you're thinking about this as a, let's call it a micro level, because you're talking about just your website. If you link from other pages within your site to this page that you're trying to rank, it's basically telling Google that this is an important page within your site, and they will take notice of that. So by having this tool within Yoast SEO, it's already helping that, you know, ahead of time. But if you don't have a WordPress blog, do that too. Look and see which content is relevant, it's related, and see how you can connect it so that it can be helpful for those pieces of content within your site. The last thing here is the redirect manager. So let's say that you have pages that have 404. And a 404 page, if you guys don't know what that means, it's basically not found. The page cannot be found. So that happens if you change URLs, if you change URL structure. Let's say that you just have to take the content down for whatever reason. It's always a best practice to, if you have something that's similar, to redirect it if possible, so that you don't lose on the inbound links to that page or the potential traffic that that page was driving. But you can actually do that with the help of the Yoast SEO plugin in WordPress. So with that, questions? So Bill, do we have any questions?
Hello.
Hi.
Unmuting myself. All right. All right, so checking the gallery to see if any questions have come in. Just wow, that was a lot of information. I'm by no means an SEO expert. I'm not going to begin to claim to be, but just the breakdown of this, very, very, very well done. I'm looking to see if any questions have come through in the Q&A, and I don't see anything, and it may very well be that others have.
That's for them.
basically taking the tactic that I'm going to, and that's download this deck and start seeing how can I apply these to, and please don't go to the Accelerate Research website, because
I won't judge. It's okay.
No, I think, honestly, I think, very informative, and I imagine there will be follow-up, but trying to navigate and to, wrap heads around how to use it, how to apply. I think that's what the mode that many of us are in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot of resources online. So if you have, like questions on anything that I shared, it's very easy to find them. What I can do is put together the resources here and share it with you, Bill, so you can put it on the site later today. Because there is a lot to read, and of course, if you want to learn more and optimize your own site, it's definitely doable.
Well, and from your own standpoint, what have you found to be the best practices, or with so many available offerings out there, how do you dip a toe, start to evaluate, figure out, what is the right mix for you personally or as a brand?
So it really, obviously, you have to start looking at Google Search Console and seeing how the performance is there. And then go from that starting point, right? So you want to focus on like the low-hanging fruit, what pages are driving traffic that maybe could drive a little more traffic if I make them rank 1 or 2 positions higher in the SERPs. I think I found one question. So mobile, they're talking about, like what tools I use for mobile. So Google went into a mobile first index, I want to say a couple of years ago, so don't quote me on the timing there, but basically what that means is that they look at your site from a mobile perspective first. So of course, most people now rely heavily on their mobile devices. So yes, right now we're using laptops, but if you think about the human behavior, we are on laptops while we are working, but when we go home, we default to our mobile device. On the weekend, we are on our mobile device. So it's always important to think of a site mobile first. So there are tools, like you can actually see, like from design, you can actually start designing the site from a mobile perspective first, and then go into what it's going to look like on desktop second. Same thing for SEO. You want to make sure that it is fast. You want to make sure that it is, easy to click on the buttons, that it's easy to read. Google has a speed insights tool, which it tells you exactly the speed of loading for mobile and desktop. So those are things that you can use to see if you can optimize the loading speed of your site. So, that's what I would recommend. But basically, all the tools that I shared, they apply to mobile.